old Java interface. Like just like Pojo class, right? This interface is not going to depend on external libraries. Right? I can simply write it like it is just like an ordinary interface. Like an ordinary interface that can be compiled only by using JDK libraries. JDK libraries. Same like it is very similar to Pojo class. Same rules it is going to follow. Like the rules that the Pojo class has followed, same rules is applied for the Poji interface. Right? The interface will not extend to technology or technology and framework libraries or APIs. Very simple. Let us understand with some few examples. Example one can be like interface test one. A plain interface and the name of the identifier name is test one. Right? We call this as what? Koji. It is Koji. We don't call it as Koji interface because Koji itself is an interface, plain old Java interface. Simply it is called as Koji. Right? First conclusion. Second conclusion. Let us take another interface. Interface test1 extends java.lang. Clonable. Clonable is a marker interface. It is part of JDK, Java Development Kit. Right? That's why this is also called as what? It is a Koji. Because it is a part of JDK. That's why this is called as Koji. Right? Let me write that here. It is part of Java API. Is part of java.lang package. Koji. Third example. Interface test2 instance java.rmi.remote. So this remote interface is it is not part of Java API or Java JDK. It is not included in the JDK library. So this is an external technology. Since this is an external technology, we cannot call it as Koji because it is not part of Java API, JDK API. It is not a Koji. Very simple understanding. Need to memorize these things. Just check if it is part of Java. If not, if it is a part of any other technology, then it is not Koji. RMI technology API. For example, interface test2 extends java.lang.java.sql dot connection, not a POG, because JDBC technology, not part of Java API, right? So it looks similar to Pojo, but here we can extend only to interface, can extend only to the interface. It cannot extend to classes, not implement classes. So the conclusion is going to be very simple. So what are the exception cases? Exception case one. So the limitations are only for the extends keyword, not for annotations and not for the libraries that are getting implemented inside the body. So one exception cases can be like this. Interface test2. If I am just placing an annotation, remote annotation, it is part of EJB, Enterprise Java Beans, not part of Java, not part of JDK. But still this is POG because limitations are only for the extends keyword. Still this is a POG. Because limitations are placed only for extending to external APIs. This is an exceptional case. You can say that exceptional case. Right? Then we can give a direct conclusion like if project suppose POJ or POG modeling while developing main classes, then business logic and precision logic, then we can easily move these classes from one framework to another framework. That's the reason why we always choose to design classes with POJO and POG models, because migration is going to be very easy. Right? Making sense? By this we can conclude that POJO and POJs are like it is just an advantage to achieve loose coupling. Right? So this is all about what? This is all about POG classes. Now today the new topic is going to be let me use this space. This topic is going to be very interesting. Please focus. Bean class. Bean class we also call it as component class. Component class. So far we have discussed about what? Java Bean we have discussed. And after the Java Bean class we have discussed about POJO class and we have discussed about POG. If you see Bean class and Java Bean, they both look similar. I mean, if you want to identify these two, they look similar. It creates a lot of confusion. But trust me, both are completely different. When you talk about Bean class is completely different than Java Bean. Because the naming conventions are creating an ambiguity, but they both are completely different. If you say Java Bean, it is just a Java Bean. If you say Bean class, it is a Bean class. Both are going to have different properties. Don't get confused. Right? So first statement is Java Bean is completely different from Bean class. Bean class, because Java Bean is always going to be represented as a data carrier, because Java Bean is always going to get represented as a data carrier. Very, very important point. Firstly, the second point is going to be, so what does exactly the Bean class mean? So Bean class is also called as component class. What does it exactly mean? What is the uses of this class? Where we use in the project? What is the difference between the Bean class and the Java Bean? Right? Understanding these things are very, very important. Right? Very simple. If you want to place the business logic in a particular class, if you want to place a business logic can be anything. Business logic can be anything. Right? Business logics are very specific. Right? If the business logic is placed inside a particular class, if the particular class is often used, it is used very often, right? Then we call it as what? Component class. So let us imagine like this. Let me say that I have a class calculator. Name of the class is calculator. Inside this, I am going to take two variables. Integer a equal to 100, integer b equal to 200. Just for understanding purpose, I am taking it like this, and I am taking another method. I am taking a method which is specific to this particular class. It's going to have a business logic. The business logic is like it takes this input, and the output is going to be addition of these two inputs. The public void addition. If pass these two inputs as parameters, internally some logic is written. Some logic is written. The logic is like it is going to evaluate the addition. Some dot out dot. This is a simple business logic. Pass two values, and the output is going to be the addition of the two input values. This is the business logic. I will introduce you some more terminologies here. Just focus. So these are also called as variables, right? We call this as what? Variables. Firstly, we call this as variables. To be very specific, variables are like just like a common entity or common element. Right? To be very specific, we call this as properties. To be very, very specific, we can call this as what? State. There are three ways that this particular identifiers can be represented. One is variables. You can also call it as properties. You can also call it as state. State is the kind of a very specific word. When you talk about state, you talk about the properties, right? So this is what the state means. State means you are talking about the collective properties that is placed inside a particular class. As simple as that. We say that state of the class is nothing but the collective representation of all the variables. Properties are nothing but collective representation. Variables are collective representation. As simple as that, right? This is a kind of business logic. Why we call it as a business logic, I will tell you. Before even thinking about the business logic, you can call this as a method. One way of calling this particular part, right? We can call this as what? Method. This is the name given, method. You can also call this as what? Behavior. Behavior of a class. When you say behavior of the class, you are talking about the method. You can also specifically call it as what? Business function. Or a method that is having the business logic. Very specific category. Right? Understand this. I am just getting you acquainted with these technologies. Please understand. Right? What Bean class says, Bean class is just like a Bean class is just like a Java class, but it is going to have state and behaviors. This is the state. This is the state. It is going to have behaviors. Behavior is nothing but method, and the state must be used inside this behavior. The state that I am talking about is nothing but these properties. These properties has to be or must be used inside this method, or used inside this business logic, or used inside this business function. Making sense? When you do that, we call it as what? The component class, or we call it as Bean class. Right? So the simple definition is I can say like this. Bean class This is a type of Java class which has state and behavior, and in addition the state must be used inside the behavior to develop a business logic. Very simple. When you have a class, if inside class you will be having properties and methods, or state or behavior, or we can say variables and methods, business function. It is mandatory for you to use these variables that you are declaring here inside this method or inside this function, right? So if you use that and if you create a business logic inside this method, then we call it as what? The component class or bean class. Making sense? Second conclusion. Bean class can be developed by using Pojo model or non-Pojo class model. If you look at this bean class, see if it is getting extending to, if you look at this component class, if this component class or if this bean class is getting extended to external libraries, you don't call this as a Pojo class. If it is not extending, you call it as a Pojo class. The conclusion can be very simple. Bean classes can be Pojo class. Classes can be Pojo classes, but not all the Pojo classes are bean classes. Just look at this code, right? If you want to define whether it is a bean class or not a bean class, very simple. If it is extending or implementing to external libraries, we can call it as a Pojo class. Firstly, if it is not extending, we are not supposed to call it as a, sorry, if it is not extending, we are supposed to call it as a Pojo class. If it is extending to external libraries, we are not supposed to call it as a Pojo class. But the condition for bean class or component class is very simple. The state and the behavior that you are declaring, the state must be used inside this behavior to develop a business logic. If that is happening, we call it as what? Bean class. This is expression of the diagram. The state is, bean class is a type of Java class which has the state and the behavior, and in addition, the state must be used inside the behavior to develop a business logic. Right? And one more conclusion I can give, state and behavior, and we can also say that this component class or bean class can't be developed as a Java bean class, because Java bean class is a data carrier. Java bean class has some rules, some set of rules. Some 5 rules are there. We have seen that in our first session. Right? You can develop this class as a Pojo class, because we know how to develop a Pojo model class, how not to develop a Pojo model class. Depends upon the extents and implement skill. But Java bean class is not like that. Right? It has, we are not going to use any business logic inside the Java bean class, because Java bean class is meant only for the data carriers. It is meant only for the data carrier. No other thing, no other business logic is going to be existed, or you cannot place a business logic inside a Java bean class. If you are placing it, it is not going to be a Java bean class. It is going to be what? Component class. If any business logic is found inside the method, if the state of the class is used inside the method to develop a business logic, we call it as what? Pojo class. So what we call it as bean class. As simple as that. Right? You will see one program, you will get much clarity. You see one program, you will get one clarity. So there are so many examples I can give, but in the real-time project, if you take, so the Spring Boot application, if you develop any application using a Spring Boot framework, you use a service layer or you use service classes. Service classes, always you will place business logic inside the service layer. And there is a layer called DAO layer, we can call it as DAO classes. There you will keep what? Persistence logic. Persistence logic. I will explain each and everything. We have controller layer. Controller layer or controller classes where you will keep monitoring logic. All these classes, all these three classes, all these three layers, right? They are developed by using what? Component class or bean class. Please be informed that all these layers are developed by using what? Component classes or bean class. Bean class. Component class or bean class. Because in order to place any business logic, bean class is preferred. How to prepare bean class? Very simple. You have properties and you have method. Use these properties inside the method. Use this property to develop a business logic. Simply call it as what? It is called as bean class. Right? So let us understand. Now let us do a small comparison. For example, let me take, this is my one layer. So in Spring Boot application, see in the future topics, in the Spring modules, you will see this. I have two layers, like I have two section of folders. Or I can say that I have two classes. So this class is developed by using Java bean class conventions, bean class standards. This class is also developed by using bean class standards. Two bean classes are there. Right? Let us say that this is a service class. Service class where you develop business logics. You will understand what is the business logic, what is the controller logic, what is the monitoring logic, what is persistence logic. The future topics. I'm just trying to make sure that you are getting acquainted with these words. You are getting familiar with these words. UOA class, which is also called as persistence. Where you will keep persistence logic. Here you will keep business logic. Persistence logic is nothing but when you transfer your object to the database. When your Java program is getting communicated to your database, let's say that this is a Java program, right? You are collecting data by using the Java program. If you want to save this data into the database, you will follow some operations like CRUD operations. So CRUD operations are part of persistence logic, right? So you collect what? You collect information by using Java bean class. Data carrier. Data will be carried. Java bean class is going to carry data from one component class to another component class. By using Java bean class is going to carry data. It is going to act like a peon in the office. Just collect data, right? Send the data between two different component classes. All this is what Java beans. Data carriers. It will collect data between two component classes. Java beans. right? So persistency is nothing but if you are trying to perform CRUD operations by using database. CRUD means create, read, update, delete. Trying to perform data by using CRUD operations, you need to follow the persistence logic. So we develop that persistent logic on top of DAO classes. We write the business logic on top of service classes. When you want to transfer the data from Java Bean to the database, right? You will write some persistence logic, which is nothing but that persistent logic will be written on top of DAO classes. So this concept is called as achieving persistency. When when you say that the persistency is achieved, it means that the Java object has been successfully placed inside the database. Persistency, achieving persistency. It's also called as placing Java objects to the database. Placing Java. So we can achieve this by using this particular class, right? So the conclusion is very simple. Whenever you are developing a service class, you are developing a DAO class, or when you are developing a controller class, right? All these classes should be developed on top of what? All these classes should be developed by considering this component class model. What is a component class model? Very simple. When you have a state, when you have a behavior, the state has to get communicated. The state has to be used inside the behavior to develop a business logic. As simple as that. Right? Making sense? Just type yes in the chat box if you have understood so far. We will discuss about the questions while concluding this class. Type yes in the chat box if you have understood. I want to know whether you are with me or not. Yes. Okay. Okay, let me introduce a small program about this. So we have just understood what is a component class or bean class. It create a lot of confusion because Java bean and bean class both are resembling same, right? It is going to create a lot of confusion. Please make sure that you're not getting confused with these terminologies. Let us write a small program, right? So I want to use two service class, one service classes and one database class or DAO class, and I need to use a data carrier like Java bean. Okay. Let us take this simple example. So let me okay, this is my bean class. Let me take new notepad. Class 6. File name. So this is my notepad. When this is my new paint. So this is my Java bean class. Hope you're able to see my screen. This is my Java bean class. Why this is Java bean class? It is acting like a data carrier. So it is following some rules and regulations. What are the rules? The class should be public, right? And all the member variables, all the variables should be declared with private access modifier, right? At least one default constructor should be there, right? And we should keep setters and getters for each and every property. There are three properties. If I place setters and getters for each and every property, I should get 6 methods. Right? This is getter, this is setter, this is one getter, this is one setter, this setter, and the setter is missing because 1 minute. Okay. Now it is visible, right? Setter, getter, setter, getter, I did not copy the last one. Get set. Okay. Okay, getter, setter. We have six getters and set. Six. We have three getters and three getters. Three setters. So this is what we call it as a typical Java bean class. If you use just Java in front of bean class, it is going to be a Java bean class. Java bean class is also called as what? Data carrier. We have created a class to carry data. Java bean class. Second class. So this is my business logic. Let me copy this and paste and I will give you the explanation. Okay. If you see this class, just focus here. Name of the class is bean class exponential. I have properties here. These are called as what? Properties. What I have said, we can call it as properties. We can also call it as state. We can also call it as what? We can also call it as variables. Right? And this is a typical method I have taken inside this particular class. Name of the method is transfer amount. Right? Inside this method, I am accepting this data. I am using this state inside this method. The bank name I have used it here. Bank IFSC code I have used it. Bank location I have used it. Right? Somehow I have used the information inside this state. What I have just said for the component class, whenever you are preparing a class which is going to have state and behavior, if the state or if the property is getting used inside the behavior, behaviors are nothing but what? Behaviors are nothing but methods. And if you develop business logic by using the state, then we call it as what? Component class. So this is a typical component class. Component class. Now tell me, this Java bean class, we can also call it as what? Pojo class. Bean class or Pojo class, because it is also following the Pojo class rules. It's not extending to any external APIs. And this component class is also can be called as a Pojo class because it is not extending to any external APIs. Pojo class. Right? If you see this Pojo class, since it is performing some operations or it is trying to, the particular method is holding some business logic, we can call this as what? Service layer. Just for our understanding, service layer is not going to look like this. Just for our understanding, because since I am using some business logic, I am keeping it as service class. We can also call it a service class. Right? And I have a database class. Let me copy and let me paste it here. Okay. Just an assumption, it is not going to get communicated with the database, but inside this I have declared some data, some information I have declared. Source, destination and balance. Source represents the source account number, DSET represent destination account number and the current balance 10,000. Right? So just assume that this is a database for the time being, and once we get connected to this database, it is performing some kind of checkings. Right? If the input values are as equal to, the input values that they are passing, right? It should be equal to this source, it should be equal to this destination account number, it should also be equal to the balance information. If all these things are valid, then execute this operation. Right? If things are valid, return true. If things are not valid, if we are giving any misinformation, return false. Just assume this as a database, right? So this is what we call it as what typically I can call it as a component class. Okay, why component class? These things are the state is being used in this particular method. So I can call it as component class. So since we are developing a business logic, I can call it as what? DAO class, data access object, right? So if you see, we have the Java bean class. We have the component. We have one component class which is also called a service class. We have a second component class which is also called as love class. So I am using this data carrier. I am using this data. I am going to use this data carrier. I'm going to feed some information for this particular state, for this particular variables. I will be transferring this data between these two classes. Right? If I run this, first you see the output, then we will together trace this program. This is my client application. Right? We want to. I'm just setting the amount. Setting the amount means let me set it as 500. This is the account number. Source. This is my account number. This is the destination account number. This is the driver class. Main class. Main class that has where we have placed the main method. From the main class only we are going to operate. We are going to communicate with all the classes. I'm keeping the main class very simple. So this is the main class. Inside this main class, we have a main method, and inside this main method, I have created object for the customer information. This is the bean. This is the Java bean class. Object is created for Java bean class. This class is going to carry data. Right? Secondly, object is created for bean class explanation. Service class. Service layer. Right? So I'm passing these three values. One is 500, second one is my account number, third one is the account number where I want to transfer the money. This is my account number, this is the destination account number. I want to transfer 500 rupees. Right? I have collected all this data and I'm placing inside the bean class object. I mean placing it inside the customer information object. Right? If I run this, you will get simple output, but internally so many things are going to happen. See, available balance is 9,500. The amount of 500 from Chennai with IFSC code has been transferred from 1235 account number to 98765 account number. What is happening internally? Let me take this and paste it here. This is what we call it as a client application. Okay, client application. Main class. Client application. So as soon as you compile this, right, after compilation, the execution will start from the main method. This is the main method from where the execution will be started, right? So the first instruction inside the main method is it is creating an object for customer information. Customer information is a class. What class is that? Object has been created for customer information. So customer information is here. This is the customer information class. So we are creating object for what? Customer information, and the reference variable is CI. Right? What will happen? We have used a new keyword, right? For the new keyword, an object will be created for the new keyword. Right? The reference variable is what? What is the reference variable? CI. So CI is the reference variable. right? Initially, the default value will be assigned for source account, destination account, and the amount. So we have source, we have destination account, and we have amount. Initially, default values will be initialized. What is the default value for long? 0. And default value for this is also a long type 0. This is also a long type 0. So object is created and default values are initialized for this particular class, customer information. First line completed. Go to the main class again. Second line, if you observe the second line, we are creating object for bean explanation class with the reference variable bi. So this is the database class. Okay, this is the bean explanation class. So an object will be created here. Object will be created for what? Bean explanation class. And the reference variable is what? bi. Right? So if you see here, all the variables, all the state and all the properties, we have already assigned values like bank name is equal to Axis. So no default values will be assigned, direct values will be assigned. Bank name is equal to Axis. Bank location equal to Chennai. Bank IFSC code equal to some IFSC code, IFSC 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the properties. For the same properties, we have already declared the values as well. So same values are going to get assigned inside the object. The reference variable is what? bi. So second line completed. Third line, we are setting values for what? We are setting values for customer information. First value is 500, second value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, third value is 98765. So control will be transferred here. So default values will be replaced with the values that we have set using setters. Amount is 500. So let me keep it in red. 500. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is that value? What is the value that we have set? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 98765. So changes are made inside the object. The values are default values are replaced with the values that we have set using the setters. So this line also completed. These 3 lines are completed. Line number 1, line number 2, line number 3. The last line, look at this last line. We are calling bi dot transfer amount. Understand this? Bi dot transfer amount. You go to inside the bi class. Inside the bi class, I am calling a method. What method I am calling? Inside the bi class, I am calling transfer amount method. Name of the method is what? Transfer amount method. Transfer amount. See, now we are passing ci. Ci is the object reference value, reference variable, right? Just now JVM will identify if the transfer amount method is available inside the bi object. See, there is a method by the name of transfer amount. This transfer amount is accepting what? Customer information object, which is directly accepting this object. This object. All these values will be transferred to this transfer amount class, right? So this customer information is holding what? It is holding 3 information: source information, destination account, amount information. All the values are specified. We have specified these values using setters, right? The same information is getting passed here. So this method has to get executed, right? So internally, one more thing is happening. It is calling database. So an object is created for database bank. Control has been transferred here, and again internally the object has been created for what? Database bank. Right? So where is the database bank? So this is the class for database bank. So a new object has been created. Right? All the values. So now observe one thing. New object has been created. So I have declared this as static. Static means these values will not be stored inside this object. These values will be stored outside the object. Understand that? Since we have declared it as static, all these values will be stored outside the object. What are the values? Because here class level Java function source equal to 1 2 3 4 5 dst equal to 98765 balance equal to 10,000. Just assume that these are the values that has been saved inside the database related to my account information. In my account, I have 10,000 rupees balance. That's why I have declared this static here, right? And in my account, I have a beneficiary. The name of the beneficiary's account number is 98765, and this is my account number. This is how the class can be represented as a database for the understanding purpose. Since we are using static keyword, these values will not be can't be placed inside here. Of course, we have a reference variable. What is the reference variable? Database DB. DB is the reference variable. But it is not going to have any values. I mean, you cannot place these values inside here because these are the static variables. Static variables can be placed outside the object, right? In the what we call it as method area. This part belongs to heap area. This part belongs to method area. You can say the class level variables. Variables. So where were we? So now this thing has completed. Right? Now the actual checking is happening. What is happening here? It is checking if db dot checking. Right? If db dot checking of ci, right, inside this some checking is happening. What checking? The values that we are passing 500 1 2 3 4 5 98765. This is the destination account number. This is the what we call it as. I have just incorrectly. So this is the account number. I have mapped incorrectly. No, don't mind. Nine eight seven six five. This is 500. Correct mapping, no issues. Right? It will check if the values that we are passing, right, is same as the values that is appearing in the database. Right? That is the logic that I have written here. That is something that I have written inside here. Right? It is doing some checking. So the data is carrying what? Actually, the data carrier is carrying the source account number is 9876, and some information it is carrying. Destination account number and some amount, the value of some amount is carrying. We'll do some checks in the database by using this particular object. So internally some condition will be checked. If the balance is not sufficient, for example, my available balance is what? 10,000. 10,000 is available balance. Right? If I'm trying to withdraw, if I'm trying to transfer 15,000, it will get error. Right? If the source information is wrong, it will give me error. If the destination information is wrong, it is going to give me some error. These things are taken care by this database logic. Right? If the logic is incorrect, it is going to return check your bank details. If the logic is correct, it is going to return what? It is going to perform the actual transaction. As simple as that. Right? You will be able to understand this when you write this program, but the conclusion is very simple. So I have used a simple Java Bean class, which is going to act like a data carrier. I have used two component class. One component class is meant for business logic or service logic, and second component class is meant for database logic. So we are just assuming that this is a database, right? And by using the client application or by using the main method, we are transferring data by using Java Bean class, and this data is being transferred between these two these two component classes. This is one component class, and this is another component class. Just for the understanding purpose, I have created this program. I will share you this program. If you practice once, you will get a clear picture, right? So if you see, if I pass the correct information, no issues. If I try to transfer amount that is greater than the balance that I have, if I run this, check your bank details, right? If I transfer 1000, so 1000 is available in my account. My account balance is 10,000, right? If I run this, available balance is 9,000. The amount of 1000 has been transferred. Very simple logic. If I transfer 1 rupee, available balance is something. If I transfer something that is equal to the my account balance, the available balance has to be 0. If I am using the incurrent account information, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I am using 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, check your bank details. Very simple, a simple Java program that I have written to differentiate between a Pojo class, a component class, a Java Bean class, and how we are supposed to use the business logics, how the communication between two classes are going to happen. Right? Making sense? I will share this program. Just understand this program. By this understanding, the component class part will be over. So we will from tomorrow onwards, we will be discussing about Spring containers. Actual Spring topics will start from tomorrow. But understanding this topic is very important. And one more thing you have to understand. Sometimes we will be having a lot of confusion between what is the difference between Java tools, Java tools versus Java frameworks. Any idea? Very simple. Eclipse, STS, they represent Java tools. They usually represent Java tools. Spring Boot, Hibernate, they represent frameworks. So how we can understand this little more? I will give you the real-time analogy now. Let's focus here. These tools will ensure that all the elements in the particular project are organized properly. So these tools are going to work with what? They are going to work with language. They are going to work with framework. They are going to work with dependencies. They are going to work with XML files. Right? They are also going to work with database jars. Again, it is going to be jars only. They are going to work with build path. They are going to specify testing folders for JUnit testing. JUnit testing is nothing but when you test your own code. After developing your code, when you test your own code, it is called as JUnit testing. So for testing to do JUnit testing, the cases are going to be placed inside the testing folders, and we have some source folders. All these things will be organized by using Java tools, which are nothing but Eclipse, STS. Framework talks about the specific category. Right? Projects are built on top of frameworks, and projects are internally using Eclipse to organize the things in the orderly fashion. Right? On top of project, on top of frameworks, project is developed. The project is developed on top of framework. Projects are developed on projects are developed on top of frameworks. Tools are, it is just like a what we call it as, is used to organize the things in the project. Used to organize the things that you come across the project. Example, real-time example is going to be like, let us take an electrician. If a construction is happening, we require we require an electrician, right? After the structural building completion, once the building structure is completed, we call electricians. 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 Right? The job of the electricians is to what? Is to ensure that the house is connected with the electrical equipments for the power supply. Without electricity, the house is going to be incomplete, right? You cannot occupy the house with the electricity designing is not there. Right? So when you call electricians, they will come along with some tools, right? Apart from these tools, they will also carry what? You will supply electrical equipments. Electrical equipments like what? Wires, bulbs, and things like switches. This is your responsibility. But electricians, they carry tools along with. Electricians, they carry tools. They carry along with them. This is what you supply. You supply these things. And again, the tools are going to be like what? If you talk about specifically about tools, they can be testers and voltmeters, uh, plates, cutting plates, with wrenches, right? And these are the prominent tools that they use while connecting the electrical equipments, right? These are the tools that they carry usually, right? So if you convert this example to the Java project, on top of Java project, these wires, these bulbs, these switches, they are going to be act like what? They are like technologies, and they are also called as what? Frameworks, languages. These equipments are like technologies, frameworks, languages. These tools are like Eclipse, STS, to organize the things, to design the application. Tools are required, right? And these electricians are like developers. As simple as that. Direct conversion. Convert an electrician. Electrician is going to carry tools, right? When you talk specifically about electrician, it is just like talking about developers in the Java application. You talk about the specific tools, it is just like talking about the Java tools, which are nothing but Eclipse and STS. We are talking about these electrical equipments. It's like just using the technologies, frameworks, and languages. This is all about what? The this difference between Java tools and Java frameworks. Right? If when you say Eclipse, you have to say that it is a tool. Eclipse is not a technology. Eclipse is a tool. Understanding is very much required. Eclipse is a tool. Right? Framework is what? Framework is a Spring is a framework. Making sense, right? This is all about today's class, and I know that you will be finding it very difficult to understand this program. But trust me, if you try to execute this by using Eclipse IDE, it will make a lot of sense. You will understand how the data is getting transferred in the form of objects, right? Why this is called as a bean class, or why it is called as a component class, right? And why this is called as a client application. Client application is nothing but where the things gets operated from. Right, this is the code. Let me show you the code. I have four classes. This is the bean class. The logic inside the bean class. Very simple logic. Logic inside the bean class. No, this is a the name of the class is bean class explanation. The logic inside it. This is the Java bean class. Data carrier. Following all the standards, conventions, constructor, getters and setters. And we have client application where you perform, where you actually drive the class. From here the control starts from the client application. This is where you will give the instructions. At last I have developed a database application. So it looks like very simple. This class is acting as a database, right? And it is just doing checking if the person is actually having 10,000 rupees of balance. Account number, destination account number is this, if the source account number is this, right? By checking these conditions, it is going to return true or false. If it is returning true, this true will be caught by this class, this bean class. If it is true, it will execute this operation. This if condition will be executed. If it is false, it will return this one. Simple as that. Right? Practice this, you will get some clear picture. From tomorrow, we will start our actual Spring topic. Tomorrow, the class is going to be, not tomorrow, Monday, Spring containers. We'll be getting into the actual Spring topics, but try to complete this program. Without completing this program, understanding the Spring topics will be a little difficult.